Hey everyone, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy the audiobooks, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support us further, consider becoming a Patreon member. As a member, you'll gain the ability to request the next part of a novel audiobook I've uploaded, depending on your Patreon tier.
Lily used magic to heal the man, bringing him back to the optimal state, but even with his body healed up, it couldn't take away the horror he felt, that was forever a part of his soul. Now you can ask him any question. I doubt that he will try anything, Lily said and took a step back for Silva. Silva came close to the man. The man looked at Silva like he was the devil, this 12-year-old to whom they called master. This 12-year-old watched him get tortured without flinching. What sort of mind would you have to not be fazed by such a sight? All right, answer my questions honestly, or what you felt will just be the tip of the iceberg. Do you understand me? Silva asked. The man nodded as fast as he could. He didn't want it, he couldn't take that pain. No, he would rather sell his soul to this kid than feel that torture anymore. I will tell you anything you want, please, I'll tell you, the man said. Good, what's your name? Silva asked. My name is Aaron. I am from Blacklight City. I was born and I grew up there, Aaron spoke in a rush. What is the name of the organization that sent you all here? Silva asked. We are called the Dark Blade. I was asked to join a few years back. They offered us a good life as well as a good life for our families. All we had to do was follow. It was like they brainwashed us into certain beliefs, and the beliefs were tied to the ancient demon race, the man said. Ancient demon race? What is that? Tell me more about it, Silva asked. I don't know more, that's all I know. We were asked to raid this dungeon to scout because our leaders believe that a demon king candidate will be birthed in this labyrinth. I don't know what all that is, but that was the information that we received. Nothing more, we are simply a scout team, the man said. Ancient demons, and a demon king candidate, all this information, and you have nothing more on them. Silva asked again. I don't know, please, this is all that I know, Aaron said. What about your leaders, what do you know about them? Silva asked. I'm sorry, we never get the chance to see any of them. We are outer members, only the inner and core members know the leaders of the Dark Blade, Aaron said. This makes you very useless at this point, and I am guessing the rest of you only have the same information, Silva said and walked toward the door. Lily, I leave them in your care. Break their minds and feed them to the monsters, Silva said and left the room. As soon as he left the room, he heard the guttural screams of the men. He didn't care though, he kept walking toward the throne room. After today, he finally understood why the other guardians were wary of Lily's torturing. There was something that Silva also noticed, the guardians were well versed in the things of the world to a certain extent. Silva believed that, unlike the other monsters, the guardians were not all born here, and if they were born here, they took time to learn a lot of things. That's understandable, since they lived for over hundreds of years. Even if they were underground, they would still have gone out a bit or met with adventurers inside the labyrinth. But all that aside, what was troubling Silva now was the talk about the ancient demons and the demon king candidate. This was the first time that he was coming across talks about the demons. He had to find the answers. He got into the hall and all the guardians were still there, and as usual, Elsa ran and hugged him. Daddy, did you get the information that you needed? She asked. Not much, but I came across some very vital information, something about ancient demons and demon king candidates, Silva said. Elsa paused when she heard that, her face changed into a serious one. If those people are here for any reason concerning demons or demon kings, then it is a very serious thing, Elsa said. Is there something I need to know? Silva asked. Yes, there is. There is one more place in the labyrinth that you need to come into, she said and then looked at the guardians. Drake, you come with me. The rest of you should go and capture all those cloaked men and cage them until Daddy is back. The issue at hand is more important, so we will have to keep their punishment aside and just capture them. Is that okay with you, Daddy? Elsa asked Silva. Yeah, it seems the issue is really serious, and I also want to know what the demon stuff is about, Silva said. The other guardians bowed their heads and teleported to capture the intruders that had been scattered all around. Elsa led Silva and Drake to the back of the throne. She placed her hand to infuse mana into the wall behind it. Lady Elsa, is it the library? Is that where you are taking us? Drake asked. Yes, there are things Daddy needs to learn, she said. Library? Silva asked. The walls lit up, showing a large magic circle, and then the wall opened like a door. They walked into a hall more massive than the throne room. It was filled with books, equipment, crystals, and all sorts of things, even gold and all sorts of precious items. When Silva saw this, his mouth was left open. What the hell is this? I was planning on showing Daddy later, after he became accustomed to the labyrinth. This is the library. I know there are a lot of things aside from books, but that is the name it was given. I told you before that all I know is from my mummy, but that was kind of a white lie, Daddy, because I got knowledge from here. All the dragons that ruled here since the Dark Dragon, these places housed their knowledge, and their resources were stored here, Elsa said. Since the dragons have lived for so long, we have information about the demons and much more, but for now, I want you to see what the ancient demons are, Lily said. She flew into the air and took out one of the several books on the shelves, then she flew down and handed it to Silva. Silva took the book and then took a seat. He opened it up and started reading. Gods exist, and they watch over all life. They are believed to be the ultimate form of life. But not all gods are good and gracious. In fact, many are terrible and have no care for other lives. These are regarded as the evil gods. Evil gods are gods that have fallen from their initial grace and goodness and have taken it upon themselves to reap the souls of all life. In many places, they are referred to as devils, but they are just evil gods. However, evil gods are as important as gods. A god is a being that lives eternally, and so, it becomes hard over eons to keep helping races of lesser beings that refuse to listen. If there were no evil gods, gods would have no opponents, and as such, the boredom would lead them to try to create an evil that would challenge them. The lesser beings would bear the brunt of the destruction, and the god would fall to become an evil god. Then again, are evil gods truly bad, and are gods really good? To a lesser race, they may want to see it that way, but no, they are neither truly bad nor good. The only difference is one seeks to keep the balance, and the other seeks to destroy it. It doesn't matter if destroying the balance will save lives, the god will not allow it. At this point, is he a god anymore? Is he good or just selfish? A mere mortal may never understand what an evil god is or what a god is because gods and evil gods revolve around a single law called order. A law that is said to be before the gods, a law by which they all take their standing and make their decisions. Due to all this, a god can't disrupt order to save anyone, and to combat this, they created the races of angels and demons. Every world and every dimension has its own type of angels and demons. In this world, the goddess Ophelia made the ancient demons and the celestials. She did it with the help of an evil god, whose record no one knows. These two races became the holders of balance. They battled for as long as they lived, and they couldn't defeat each other. This became the new order. But soon, by some mysterious means, the order was destroyed, as a new, extremely powerful race came to be and aided the demons. The dragons, and then all other beasts, started aiding the dragons and the demons as well, and this offset the balance. Because of this, the only race that chose to help the celestials were the humans, and this created a mighty disorder. This disorder became something that the goddess had to fix. And so, she created two realms, the abyss and the heavens. She sent all the ancient demons into the abyss, and then she sent the celestials into the heavens. She wanted the normal races to be separated from the two major races. But that was far from the end, because from the realms of heaven and the abyss, the celestials and the demons reached out. This brought about the creation of the heroes and the demon kings. The heroes were humans chosen by the celestials to bear their will and be the keepers of order, whereas the demon kings were chosen by the demons. In every generation, an equal number of heroes and demon kings are born, and this is what has kept the peace for every generation. Any generation where the heroes or demon kings are fewer than the other, a great war will break out, and the stronger side will dominate until the next generation comes. A demon king can be from any race that is not human, whereas the heroes can only be human. This new system is what has regulated the peace and has allowed order to be retained. No one knows how long this will stay. Silva closed the book. He had gotten the information he needed for now. He looked at Elsa and spoke. Those men said that they came here because there was a demon lord candidate here. What does that mean? Silva asked. That would mean a new generation is starting, and the search for the hero candidates and the demon king candidates will start soon. These people might want to offset the order. If there is really a demon king candidate here, then it would make sense. If they got him or her, they would be able to make the humans have a headway by killing him, or help the demons by supporting the demon king candidate, depending on their plans, Elsa explained. The first dark dragon was a demon king, known for his powerful abyss magic. During his reign, he rose to become the first demon lord. A demon lord is a being almost as powerful as an ancient demon, or more to be honest. He offset the balance, even with equal numbers of heroes and demon kings. He led the other demons, and during that time, humans were heavily subjugated, Drake said. For humans to still survive, how come? Silva asked, considering they were only one race. That's because half of the world is made up of humans, and they keep giving birth. Elves have low birth rates, the same as dragons and other races. Only beings like goblins can keep up, but female goblins are rare, so goblins kidnap women to have their children. But with how weak they are, it is hard for goblins to make a lot of children because they are killed in large numbers, Elsa explained. You have learned information about your function from Goddess Ophelia. You are on the right path. There were a lot of thoughts in Silva's head at this point. This whole demon, celestial, and other stuff had really confused him. So, do we know who the candidate is? It can't just be a random monster, it has to have something special, Silva said. That answer is already there, Master. There can only be two options, you or Lady Elsa. But Lady Elsa has been around for over 100 years. If she had any prospects of being a demon king, she would have been selected in the past generation and not now, Drake said. So what about the Guardians? Silva asked. No, the Guardians have lived even longer than Lady Elsa, we watched her grow. So it can't be us as well. The whole thing started during the range of your birth, and with you carrying the legacy of the first dragon, and also being a half-dragon, it makes you the perfect candidate, Drake said. Silva was unsure how to react. He had the thought that it could have been him, but he wasn't sure that was possible. But now, Drake was pointing out some good facts. You have unlocked one level to the task of Goddess Ophelia. You may now receive a message from her. A notification came on, and then a hologram of Goddess Ophelia appeared massively in the middle of the room. Drake and Elsa bowed immediately when they saw the goddess. Wait, you can see her. That shouldn't be possible, Silva said. I allowed them to see because I believe that they have a vital role to play as well. They are also your comrades, they won't speak of what happens here, right? Ophelia asked. You can't be making rash decisions like that, Silva argued back. Well, it has already been done, she said with a smile, and then her face turned serious. It took you less time than I thought. I expected that you would take some years to get this first message, but it seems that the legacy has sped the process up. What I want to say is that you have always been destined to be one of the next Demon King. When I gave you the legacies to choose from, all were from former Demon Kings that have died or left this world. So no matter what, you would have become one, and then your task would have been simply to become a Demon King. But it seems something unexpected happened ever since you picked the Dark Dragon Legacy. The laws of order refuse to let me give you details all at once, so you must seek it out like you have already started. Your journey is no longer just to be a Demon King. No, it is more than that, far, far more, and the stronger you grow, the more your task is changing bit by bit. Your presence has impacted the order, and if you don't complete the task, all order will shatter, and what comes next is something I can't tell you. Either way, I'll still be there to guide you through as best as I can. Also, don't try to get the task done by force and speed, just live your life at a steady pace, and you'll be shocked at how fast you will get it done. This is all I can say for now. Ophelia waved at him and disappeared. To think Master would be acquainted with the goddess, Drake said in reverence. Stop it, you'll make it awkward, Silva said. You have gained a new title, Demon King Candidate. Perks of the title, Order of the Demon King, infuse fear into the hearts of those of lower levels and 10 levels higher than you x 10. It comes with a perk. This isn't so bad after all. Master, now that we are certain that you are a candidate, it is best that I warn you. Begin to build your army, as great and as strong as possible, because things may get very dangerous from now. The other thing is that you must keep your status a secret from humans. If they ever find out, it could spell the start of a war, one that will not be easily handled. And you are far too weak now. It would be bad for a war to start. Aside from humans, you must keep that status away from beasts alike. If the current demon kings hear about you, they will get their hands on you and force you to serve under them as training. You will lose your free will and everything, Drake warned. Silva could tell from his tone that this was a serious issue. He made a mental note to listen to what Drake said. Daddy, you have the summoner ability, right? But I noticed that you use it only partly. If you use the true power, you can build a bigger army, and even train beings that may become as strong as the Guardians, Elsa said. You just gave me an idea. If I make the Guardians my summons, they will be 10 times stronger, Silva said. That won't work, because, again, you are too weak. No matter who you are, it is impossible for a normal being to tame an evolved being, Drake said. Daddy, back to what I was saying. Let me tell you about the other side of summoning. So far, all you have been using is the taming sub-branch of summoning. There are more types, like golem summoning, spirit summoning, undead summoning, and more. If you can learn how to do that, with your mana capacity, you will be making an army in no time. You also need close confidants in the human world. The Guardians can't be with you always, because even if they suppress their mana, if a powerful person sees them, they will know. So your summons can be your close confidants, moving with you and watching over you, Elsa said. I understand, but let's take things easy for now. Even if I am a candidate, I'm only a candidate. No one knows what will happen just yet, and we still have Darkblade to deal with, Silva said. Silva informed the Guardians to leave as many of the intruders alive as they could because now that he knew about all the types of summoning, he wanted to try them out, and one of them was undead summoning. He went through the system and found a spellbook on undead summoning. He needed bodies for this to work. He returned to the hall where over 70 remaining men lay there like bags, completely tied up with spider webs. The first thing I have to do is completely kill them. Until they die, I can't use them, Silva thought. He pointed his hands at them and used a dark spell. Hands of Darkness. Several black hands came out and started choking all of them. In less than 5 minutes, the mass murder of over 70 people was complete. Silva didn't bat an eye or even show any emotions. Immediately after they all died, he activated the summoning spell, causing a massive magical circle to appear under all the men. Black smoke seeped out of the circle and into the bodies of all the intruders. It took some time, but all the intruders got up on their feet, their eyes glowing purple. Congratulations, you have created undead summons, zombies. 2000 EXP, 1000 SP. Zombies. That's cool, Silva said. He looked at all the zombies. They all lined up and bowed their heads to Silva. Drake, handle them, maybe send them to one of the floors to serve as beasts, Silva said. It was time for him to head back to the town. Suddenly, Silva felt a huge rise in mana movement in one direction. He looked over in that direction and saw that it was where Fong was. The mana kept gathering until Fong finally woke up. The first thing Silva noticed was that Fong was much bigger than when he started the evolution. There were no other changes to Fong, aside from his size and the stronger aura he carried. Silva decided to check his stats right away. Name, Fong. Race, Thunderstorm Tiger. Level, 1, Evolved. Strength, 10,000. Defense, 9,000. Speed, 9,500. Agility, 9,500. Intelligence, 8,000. Silva was shocked by what he saw, but he knew it was because of his 10 times buff that it was this high. Still, having a summon like this was awesome. Fong noticed Silva approaching him. He bowed his head in respect to Silva. You've done well to get this far, Fong. You have my commendation. Stay in the labyrinth for a while and train with the Guardians. Get accustomed to your strength. Silva immediately gave him some instructions. As you wish, Master, Fong said. All right, I'll be on my way. See you all later. Take care of Elsa for me, he said and teleported out of the hall to the 50th floor of the labyrinth and went out from there. The reason he chose the 50th floor was to ensure he wasn't spotted, since it had lesser traffic. When he stepped out of the labyrinth, he noticed that the voices of the killed adventurers were no longer there, and there were some armed knights by the labyrinth. When they saw Silva, they all pointed their spears and swords at him, completely surrounding him. "Who are you?" one of the knights asked. "I'm Silva, a B-class adventurer," Silva said. "Ha ha ha ha." All the knights burst into laughter when Silva said that. Silva could tell that these knights weren't from the town, so they didn't know him. "Look, kid, we aren't here to play. Tell us who you are, or we will have to arrest you," the knight yelled again. "I have my adventurer's card here." "I'll show it to you," Silva said and was about to remove it, but his attention was taken away by the flash of a sword headed for his head. He took a step back, and the sword missed ever so slightly. The knight had attacked him. If not for the fact that he was Silva, he would have been knocked out. "You think we are joking, you brat," the knight yelled. "What sort of unreasonable event is this? If you only let me show you, we can avoid all the commotion, and if I'm lying, you can simply arrest me," Silva said. His patience was at its limit. He looked at the men with dragon eyes, and that was when he noticed a dark, sinister energy twirling in the man's mind. That had to be the energy controlling this man and causing him to be this unreasonable. Silva then sensed a presence watching them some distance away. When he looked, it was the cloaked man. "That man again," Silva said. He looked at the knight. Even if this man was being controlled, he wasn't going to let this slide. This was because that energy was not truly controlling the men, it was enhancing the man's emotions. All the man needed to do was take a deep breath and control his emotions, and that energy would dissipate. But no, he was too pissed off for some reason, and now seeing a child who claimed to be a B-ranked adventurer made him angry. His emotions were enhanced, and now he was lashing out at Silva. He could control this situation, but he chose not to. "What are you all standing there for? This is an order. Arrest this brat. Don't hold back. If he resists, beat him up," the knight said. The knights didn't understand why their boss was acting like this, but an order was an order. They all charged at Silva at the same time. Silva quickly checked their stats, and they were all about 50 in average stats, the highest had stats of just 60. Seeing this pissed Silva off to no end. Why would ants try to arrest him? He decided to show these idiots the difference between a mountain and an ant. He remembered a reference from his favorite Asian fantasy novels. They stood before Mount Tai, but they didn't know. Discord is up, come and join the SSS-Rank Reincarnation Dark Dragon League. .gg/Y5 New Jersey 3 VAG. Silva didn't even use any weapons, all he did was let his aura loose. The men exploded, slamming into all the knights and throwing them in all directions. The captain looked at this in shock, but the refusal in his head did not allow him to make the wise decision. He drew his sword. "You bastard, I'll show you your place," he roared, but after taking one step towards Silva, he fell to the ground and trembled. The bloodlust that Silva released broke the man down, forcefully clearing his head, and the knight finally understood that he stood before his death. Still, Silva had no plans to kill. He had taken over 100 lives today, it was already too much, adding more would be going overboard. Aside from that, killing the Duke's knights would not end well, no matter how weak they were. "What's going on here?" A knight in black armor came from the forest, Reyes was also with him. When Reyes saw Silva, he could already tell what had happened here. Reyes bent over and whispered into the knight's ear. The knight's face changed to shock and then quickly back to normal. He walked to Silva and bowed his head. "I am deeply sorry about what the acting captain did. We were informed that there was a B-ranked adventurer inside the labyrinth, but we didn't know what you looked like. I'm sure this idiot jumped to the conclusion that you were lying and attacked you. I'll make sure to punish him," the knight said. He was being controlled, a strange energy was clouding his mind, but it's gone now, Silva said. Still, there is no excuse. A knight allowed himself to be controlled, that is already an act worthy of death, the knight said. It's not like he had any choice, the person that clouded his mind was far stronger than him. Silva thought. He glanced over to where he had seen the cloaked man, but the man was long gone. "All of you, get up and head back to Ribist. Await your punishment there," the knight said. The knights groaned in pain and stood up, helping their vice-captain, who was acting captain. He could barely stand on his own. The knight in black looked at all of them and wondered. This child took out all of them, and it doesn't look like he had any issue doing it. It doesn't even seem like he fought. How is that possible? Silva, you've been in the labyrinth for so long. Tell us what happened. Reyes went straight to the point. I went as deep as the 10th floor. The people that entered had overestimated the strength of an A-ranked labyrinth, so they were all killed. I found some drops, and some were human-related drops, which leads me to believe that they were killed. We can't be certain, but to be sure, the labyrinth needs to be explored further to find out, Silva said, lying as easily as breathing. Then the best thing would be for us to talk to the Viscount and also inform the Duke. We should gather a party of A ranks down to B or C ranks from the city and the town, the knight said. That makes sense, we should get to that quickly, Reyes agreed. Silva started regretting telling this story, because he was certain they would want to put him in the party that would raid the labyrinth. Sigh, the things I have to do to look normal, Silva thought. Since they were done for now, they headed back to the town. The town had calmed down, and everything was all right. Okay Silva, we both will head to the Viscount's mansion. You can do what you want until we contact you, Reyes said and left with the knight. Silva let out a heavy sigh and decided to check the guild before heading home to rest. He walked into the guild, which was rowdy as usual, and then he saw Quinn sitting with his party. They seemed to be celebrating something, so he headed there to find out. Hey, Silva, nice to see you here, Rock called out to him. When Roxy heard Silva's name, she got up from her seat, ran up to him, and grabbed him by the hand. Silva, welcome, come join us, she said and pulled him to the table. She sat him beside her and clung to him. Let go of Silva, he just got here, Rock said to Roxy. Shut the hell up, he isn't complaining, Roxy said. That's because he doesn't want to hurt your feelings. I'm not as kind as he is, Rock said. It's okay, Rock, it doesn't really bother me, Silva said. Silva looked at Tara and nodded in greeting to her, and she nodded back. So, what's the cause of the celebration? Silva asked. Two things really, Rock said. First, Quinn is now a B-ranked adventurer, and second, Tara is as well. And with 2 B-ranked adventurers, we took the test for the B-ranked party, and we passed, Rock explained. That's awesome, you guys are really moving up fast, Silva said. Hearing that come from you sounds like sarcasm, Roy pointed out. No, I'm serious, Silva said. We know you are, but then again, your speed is like 10 times our speed, so you understand, Roy said. Silva just smiled and then looked at Quinn. Congratulations, bro, Silva said. Thanks, Quinn replied. Now we're in the same rank again, Silva said. You're only there because you don't want to go up, Quinn said with a small laugh. Silva gave a nervous laugh. What his brother said was actually true, he didn't really want to go up, well, not yet. So, tell us about the labyrinth. We heard that you went in to chase after those people, Quinn asked. Yeah, but I stopped at the 10th floor and came back after not seeing them. A team may be set up for a full exploration to check things out, Silva said. How is preparation for the academy exams coming along? There are just a few more months until the exams, Silva said as he walked up to his sister, who was sitting at the dining table. Yes, I've been reading as much as I can and also practicing. I've ended my apprenticeship, so I don't have to go for magical training anymore. That reminds me, brother, I heard that you will also be going to the academy, even though you are under the normal age, Leah said. Yeah, for certain reasons, I decided that I'll take the test as well, but don't worry about me, I'm preparing too, Silva assured. I don't believe that. You are always adventuring, I haven't seen you study much for some time. I know you read a lot, but you haven't read the academy-related materials, and as your big sister, I have to ensure that you do. So from today, you'll have to come home earlier. We will study together at night before we go to sleep, Leah said. Silva wanted to refuse, but he could see that there was no way out of this. His sister's eyes were resolute. All right, I'll do that, but for now, I have something to attend to. I'll be back before night, Silva said and left. I'll make you see me that way, no matter what, Leah thought as Silva left. Silva decided to head to the labyrinth. He left the town and was on his way, but then he felt something calling to him. His minds all went to work and pinpointed the location and the person. When they saw the figure, they all said at the same time. It's him. The cloaked man stood a distance away from Silva, facing his direction. But there was no malice, no killing intent, it seemed he wanted to talk. Silva decided to meet with this fella. He walked to the men, and when they were only meters apart, he stopped. "I take it that you are here to see me?" Silva asked. "Interesting indeed," the person spoke in a distorted voice. "Stop being creepy and tell me what you want," Silva said. He also tried to use dragon eyes, but something was disrupting it. "You are the one we are searching for. I can sense it from you. At first, I wondered how someone as strong as you could be born here. I thought you would hinder me from finding the Demon King candidate, but it seems you are the one. I tried to control the prophecy, but I couldn't," the man spoke. "What prophecy?" "Tell me," Silva said. "You will know in time. As it stands now, you have grown too knowledgeable and powerful for me to kidnap anymore. It is pointless for me to try anything. I understand that you have the whole labyrinth as your army. If I started a fight with you, it would not end well. So for now, I'll retreat from this town, but I'll be watching closely. Be careful on your path, you are on a path worse than hell itself. In time, you'll understand. Remember, I'll be watching, and the day you slip up, I'll have you to myself," the man said and vanished into a black cloud of smoke. Silva stayed put for a moment, trying to arrange his thoughts. This was the person who had terrorized the village quite a bit and had also caused Mike's predicament. Yet when he stood before him, there was no longer any hatred or bad feelings. Rather, Silva felt it was important to take the man's words to heart. Something was definitely happening. "I have to go to the academy. Everything will start from there. The dreams have not stopped, even after the new message from Ophelia, and that means that place is still the place to go," Silva said. This town also didn't have any avenues for him to grow stronger. He needed to go to the city and stay in the academy. He was sure he would find better ways to grow stronger, faster. After the discussion with the cloaked men, Silva decided not to go into the labyrinth. He just wandered through the forest, going deeper and deeper while thinking. After some time, he heard the sounds of people, swords, and magic. The smell of blood filled the air. He decided to check what was happening. When he got there, he saw that a small battle was underway, as goblins and hobgoblins had raided a caravan. The goblins were over 30, and the caravan had a few knights and mages fighting. But that was not what caught Silva's attention. No, it was the beastkin who caught his attention. She was a wolf woman, wielding a mighty sword and swinging it around like it was nothing. If not for her, the goblins would have won by now. Silva decided to check her stats and see what they were like. Demi-Beast. Level 60. Strength * 490. Defense * 420. Speed * 500. Agility * 500. Intelligence * 550. Her stats shocked Silva immediately. It was hard to come by stats like this, and her level was even higher than Silva's. She was a warrior, and a powerful one at that. From the way she swung her sword to the way she moved her body, it screamed of years of experience. But even so, the battle was overwhelming, as more goblins poured into the battlefield, and this time they even brought 2 giant goblins with strength around 200. The 2 goblins carried a massive tree bough. One set it on the ground, pulled the string with the arrow, and another held the bough. When the wolf lady saw this, she tried to charge at them, but the goblins kept getting in her way. The 2 goblins fired the arrow, and it headed straight for her. With its size, it would rip her apart. But just as the arrow was about to hit, a dark blade struck the arrow and exploded it into bits. The wolf lady was shocked when the attack that was to end her was destroyed suddenly. A figure landed right in front of her like a knight coming to her rescue. Well, this was from her point of view. She had lived a life where she was alone and never helped, so the feeling of someone saving her was all new. But when she saw who stood in front of her, her feelings changed to panic. This was a child, and he would die if he got hit. "Stay back, it's too dangerous," she yelled, but Silva had already charged at the goblins. He didn't waste a single breath on the hobgoblins or normal goblins. All he did was use darkness blades to take them out as he ran. His targets were the 2 giant goblins. The 2 goblins saw Silva headed for them and decided to attack first. One lifted up the bough and swung it like a bat at Silva. Silva leaped into the air and landed on the bough, then ran up it. With his sword in his hands, he jumped from the bow. The goblin tried to catch him mid-air, but Silva slashed the hand off in one move and then came down with a stab into the head of the goblin, killing it. The second one was overtaken by rage when it saw its brother dead. It made a clenched fist and swung down at Silva, who was still on the head of the first goblin. Silva leaped out of the way, and the fist of the goblin crushed the skull of its brother. The goblin was momentarily shocked at what it had done. In its rage, it had caused its brother more harm. Silva took advantage of the momentary pause and made his way to the back of the goblin. He jumped up to the head and split the goblin clean in two. Now that the two giants had died, the remaining goblins tried to run off. Silva summoned his clones, and they chased after them, killing the rest. And just like that, the battle that would have claimed the lives of all these people ended. Everyone who survived looked at Silva with mixed emotions. Should they be happy that they were saved, or should they be wary of the 12-year-old that just massacred all the goblins with a straight face? Silva ignored the others and made his way to the wolf lady. She subconsciously took a step back, her mind terrified at how Silva killed all the goblins. "I am not going to hurt you," Silva said with an innocent smile. He looked just like an ordinary child. But to the people here, they became even more wary of him. He controlled his emotions and expressions so well that if you saw him, you would never believe that he did such a thing just moments ago. "Take this." Silva took out a healing potion and handed it to her. She looked at it closely, a bit skeptical. "If I wanted you all dead, you would have already been dead. You don't have to worry about anything being wrong with it," Silva said with a smile. The wolf lady accepted the potion and drank it. Her wounds started healing up, and energy returned to her body. "Thank you. I'm sorry for being rude to you even after you saved us," she said, bowing her head to him. "You said, save us." "Actually, I had no plans of saving anyone other than you," Silva said. The hearts of all those there tightened when they heard that. "I would have simply watched this whole thing happen if not because of you," Silva said. She looked at him with a confused face. What was Silva saying? "I guess you guys will be better off heading to Ribist, my hometown. It is closer to here," Silva said to the others and pointed in that direction. "But miss, I want to talk with you, so I'll delay you a bit," Silva said to the wolf lady. She didn't know what he wanted to talk about, but she agreed. After the others finally took what they could and all said their thanks to Silva for saving them, they headed for Ribist, leaving Silva and the wolf lady alone. "Dawn, my name is Dawn," she said in an awkward manner, as if she didn't have much human interaction. Demi-humans in this time and age were sold as slaves in certain towns and cities, often after wars and great suffering. All Silva really knew about it was that they were pushing for the abolition of slavery and returning the enslaved demi-humans to their home countries. This was information he got after he entered the political sector. "My name is Silva. I'm an adventurer from Ribist," Silva said. Dawn looked at Silva very closely. Her eyes went all over him like a scan, and she couldn't help but ask. "Sir Silva, how old are you?" she asked. "Drop the sir talk." "I'm 12, getting to 13, he said. "Seriously?" she asked in shock. She could tell that Silva was powerful. There was no way a 12-year-old could be this strong, but she decided not to pry. "So, tell me, Dawn, where is your home?" Silva asked, but as soon as he did, her face went sour. He could tell there was a story behind that face, and he wanted to know, but he couldn't outright ask her. "You don't need to tell me if you don't want to," he said. "No, you saved my life. I owe you my life at this point." "I'll tell you," she said. They found a place to sit, and then she started recalling her past. Dawn was from the Grey Wolf Beastkin tribe, but she was an outcast due to the fact that she wasn't a real Beastkin. Her mother was from the tribe, while her father was purely human. It was hard for two different races to have a child, but not impossible, and she was an example of that. Because she was different, she was seen as an outcast, and it all worsened after her mother died, assassinated. She lived her life in the tribe from hand to mouth, struggling and pushing daily. She trained and grew stronger to gain their recognition, but nothing worked. Until finally, she was exiled as an outcast, just before the war started. Humans raided the tribe and killed everyone, taking the children as slaves and the women as toys. She was too late. When she returned, the tribe was gone, and she was the last survivor. She had nowhere, no one. She was all alone. A little girl inside the body of an adult, trying to find her footing in the world, but where would accept her? She became an adventurer, and even there, she was scorned and looked down upon by humans. Many tried to take advantage of her, and because of that, she bloodied her hands with their blood. This was her story that led up to this point. This story was that of a lost girl seeking out where she belonged. To Silva, it served as an opportunity. He stood up and stood in front of her. She looked up, wondering what he was doing, but then she saw a smile on his face, one that was assuring and confident. Remember I said I only helped because of you. Because when I looked at you, I saw a warrior. Even in the face of hardships, you fought. You could have easily left all of them here and gone your way. You could have escaped with your strength, but you wanted to prove that you weren't an outcast. You wanted to be accepted. So you stood your ground and fought to the end. Isn't that right? Silva asked. Dawn stared at Silva. She lost control of her tear ducts, and tears began pouring. This grown lady started crying like a child, as though all the pain she had forcefully sealed away since birth had just broken free. She couldn't hold herself back anymore. She sobbed and cried. Silva placed his hand on her shoulder. Are they worth it? Are all those idiots that have looked down on you worth the pain? Even as you bore so much, they still don't respect you. They don't know how much effort you put in, they overlook that and treat you how they want. I think you've carried enough pain for a lifetime. I admired you, and that's why I saved you. So, will you let me continue saving you? Let me be there to stand and be someone that truly accepts you, because I understand you, Silva said and took a step back, bringing out his dragon wings and claws. Dawn was shocked when she saw it. She never expected that Silva would be part dragon. Silva transformed back to normal and came closer. Unlike me, you can't hide your physical sides, but with me, you wouldn't need to hide it. And there are a ton of people I know who would accept you and take you as family. So, will you let me help you and keep saving you from yourself? Silva asked and stretched out his hands. I know I'm an asshole for playing with her emotions and using that to get her to sign a contract, but I'm telling the truth. If she comes with me, she won't need to feel like an outsider anymore. Silva tried to clear his little conscience. Dawn looked up at Silva's hand. She hesitated a bit, but then she gave in and stretched her hand. Silva took her hand and started the summoner ritual. The ritual went as planned, and the mark appeared on her body. You have gained a new summon, Dawn. Congratulations. Dawn felt her power increase all around. This was the 10 times buff that Silva had. She felt 10 times stronger. No, that was the wrong statement, she was now 10 times stronger. She looked at Silva with confused eyes, and Silva responded. I told you that I'd keep saving you, right? What you got just now is the first part. In case I can't save you, I've given you added strength to fight as well, Silva said. He hadn't finished talking when Dawn leaped up and hugged him, pushing them to the ground. They stayed like that, and she whispered into his ear. Even if it means burning the world, I would do anything to stay with you. At this point, the child in Dawn had taken over. Her physical age was about 18 to 20, but right now, that scared kid in her head was in control. She had found someone who would accept her and be there for her, something she had never had, and like a child, she didn't want to let go. Silva let them stay that way to get it out of her system, and after 5 minutes, she got up. Silva got up as well and smiled at her. Now that we have an agreement, why don't we hunt down the goblin tribe that attacked you? You need your revenge, after all, Silva offered, his moods already searching for the location. Her demeanor changed after Silva offered that. It turned into that of a bloodthirsty warrior. She picked up her sword and nodded at Silva. Let's eradicate them, Dawn said. Okay, mind. The location has been found. You can proceed, Mind 2 contacted Silva. All right, let's go, Dawn, our first battle together, Silva said and dashed in one direction. Dawn followed, running just behind him. She kept glancing at him from time to time, and she would smile every time. Normally, it would take days and months to make someone trust you, but by pulling some strings and playing with emotions, Silva did that in less than an hour. But it wasn't all him. Dawn had been actively searching for acceptance for over 20 years, and many people had tried to use her. She could basically smell deceit by now, but from Silva, she couldn't sense any deceit, just pure certainty in his words. The goblin tribe was located at a very large tree in the forest. Small mud huts were littered everywhere, while there was a massive hole in the large tree, making it look like a cave. Silva looked at Dawn and asked, "Are you ready to bring them to the ground?" "Definitely," she responded with conviction. She wanted to end these goblins more than anything right now. "All right, then let's move," Silva said, drawing his sword and charging into the tribe with Dawn following. A goblin spotted Silva and Dawn and immediately screamed to signal the tribe. It finished shouting and tried to run, but a sword had already passed through its chest, killing it. Silva had long turned off his notifications because it wasn't worth hearing them. Even with his 10 times buff, his level was way too high now. The goblins all came out and started their attack. Silva wanted to move, but Dawn cut in. "Leave this to me, Silva," Dawn said. She swung her blade, and goblins were split in two. She was like an unstoppable typhoon sweeping through the area easily. She was incredibly fast, and in less than a minute, she had killed all the goblins. Finally, the ruckus reached inside the tree, and several giants came out, all of them as huge as the one Silva had killed. But this time, it wasn't the same. She was 10 times stronger than before, but for safety, she decided to use her magic. Her blade lit on fire, creating a flaming sword. Silva saw this and was shocked. You needed a high amount of mana to do something like this. The idea to try this out with dark magic came to his mind, and his thoughts started simulating how it would work when he needed it. She swung her sword and fired a large flame arc. The arc hit the first giant and cut through it cleanly, continuing to kill the one behind it. She dashed at them at a speed they couldn't keep up with, slashing through the rest and killing them like they were nothing. Now that she had killed all the goblins, all that was left was to check inside the tree. Silva led the way, and she followed. As soon as he entered, he felt a powerful bloodlust and saw 2 red eyes looking at him from the darkness. Silva used dragon eyes to find out the stats of whatever it was. It had stats over 400 and was level 60 as well. The only way for that to be possible was if it was a goblin king, and just as he presumed, it was a goblin king, charging at him into the light. It held a large dagger firmly, its mana wrapped around the dagger, making it sharper. It leaped into the air to attack Silva, but Silva used the skill he got, fear. His eyes glowed. The goblin king froze in midair. It used some sort of technique to stop its movement, landing and leaping backward. "What are you?" the goblin asked. "Oh, so you understand human language. Then this should be easy. I have wiped out your entire tribe, but there is a chance of survival for you. Become my summon now, or I will kill you. You should already feel that you can't kill me, right? There's a voice screaming at you not to fight me, better listen to that voice," Silva said. The goblin king stared at Silva. The fear skill had been turned off, but it was still intimidated by Silva. Silva saw that the goblin was still reluctant, so he let his aura and bloodlust seep out. The goblin king began shivering because of this, its body moving on its own as it bowed its head. "I need to build an additional force, that's what Elsa told me, so you'll make a great addition," Silva thought. He activated the summoning, and it worked without issues. "Congratulations, you have gained a 3rd summon. Do you wish to name your summon?" Silva looked at the goblin and asked, "You don't have a name?" "I don't have one, master," the goblin said. "Fine, your name is Galen," Silva said. "Thank you, master," Galen replied. This was the easiest subduing Silva had done, but it made sense. He was simply subduing a weaker creature. Galen was too weak to cause him any stress. The only reason he didn't force Dawn, well, that was because she was a beautiful lady. Who in their right mind would force a beautiful lady into anything? Galen felt a surge in his strength when the 10 times buff kicked in. He looked at Silva in surprise. "That's a little gift to make you stronger," Silva said. Galen slammed his head on the ground in respect to Silva. He was forced just moments ago, but now all his anger faded away. Who cares if Silva killed his tribe? The tribe was to grow his strength anyway. Right now, he just hit a height he never thought was possible. "I, Galen, swear to be your humble and faithful servant till death," Galen said. "No need to be dramatic," Silva said, and then he looked at Dawn. "I hope you'll forgive me for sparing him." I know you wanted to kill them all, Silva said. Please don't apologize, Silva. You already allowed me to destroy their tribe. You honored my selfish desire. From the looks of things, he will be useful to you, so I have no issues with it. But if he ever gets rude to you or tries for your life, I'll kill him on the spot, Dawn said as she leaked killing intent that frightened Galen. Lady Dawn, be rest assured that I am fully a servant of Master now. I hold no grudge over the dead goblins, Galen said. How can a goblin have this sort of vocabulary? Silva asked while looking at Galen, trying to figure it out. Ah, Master, that is because I was captured by humans from a young age and was with them for several years, Galen said. Silva decided that it would be best if they returned to the labyrinth first before he headed back to town. He introduced Galen and Dawn to the Guardians and Fong. Dawn and Galen were shocked to see such powerful beings calling Silva Master, but they got used to it after a while. Silva decided to head back to town, and the only person that came with him was Dawn. She was an adventurer, and she had also been with the caravan that was destroyed, so it made sense that she would return to the town. As soon as they arrived at the town, an adventurer informed them that the guild master was waiting for Silva. So Silva and Dawn headed for the guild. Dawn walked close to Silva, so much so that their shoulders brushed. Silva looked at her many times, but whenever he turned his head, she would look away, so he decided not to think about it and just keep walking. Before they got to the guild, they came across Quinn and his party, who were headed toward them. Hey, Silva, Quinn greeted. Roxy, who was at the back, saw Dawn and how close she was clinging to Silva. It was as though a wire in her head snapped. She was about to run up to Silva to hug him, that way she could push him away from this beastman. But as she tried to move, Rock grabbed her hand and shook his head at her. She glared at him, but he refused to let go. I heard that the adventurers from the city have arrived. The massive raid will be set for tomorrow. You should get some rest, Quinn said. I understand. I just have to meet with the guild master first, Silva said. They exchanged some more small talk before they parted ways. As Roxy passed by, she stared daggers at Dawn, but Dawn paid her no heed. It seems that girl likes you, Silva, Dawn said as they walked. No, it's what I'd call knight in shining armor syndrome. I saved her, so she feels somewhat indebted to me. Her mind transcribed that as feelings for me. I don't believe it's true feelings, Silva said. But you did the same for me, Dawn muttered. Did you say something? Silva asked. Nothing, Dawn responded. They got to the guild, and Dawn waited for him in the hall while he went upstairs to meet the guild master. Underscore 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 underscore. I heard you saved a caravan from a goblin raid, Ray said as he poured some tea into 2 cups for them. Silva stretched out his hands, took his cup, and sipped from it before placing it down. Yes, we also exterminated the tribe, Silva said. Oh, is that so? What about the bodies? Those can get you some good income, Ray said. Oh, I forgot all about them. I didn't find them important. But you can send someone to go get them. It's not been long since we killed them, Silva said. Sigh, I can't believe you just killed all of them and left them there. I'll send some people after our talk. You see, Blacklight sent 3 A-ranked adventurers and several B-ranked. As it stands, you are the strongest adventurer in this town, and so we need you to be the leader. Lucas will also play a role since he is head up, but he will answer to you, as well as all the other B-ranked and C-ranked adventurers that will join. I know that the city adventurers will want to boss around, but I believe you will be able to handle them, Ray said. Alright, but I think we also have an ace. I helped out an adventurer called Dawn, a beast woman, Silva said. Oh, I believe I have heard that name. She is from the Grey Wolf tribe that is no more. I heard she was an A rank, though because of her race, she is looked down upon, Ray said. Good, you are well informed. She is going to help me in this, so that means we have 1 A-ranked adventurer with this town. With her help, handling the city adventurers would not be too hard, Silva said. Normally, I would ask how you got to know her, but at this point, I don't believe there is anything you can't do, Ray said. You overestimate me. Well, if that's all, I'll take my leave and prepare for the raid, Silva said and got up. He left the office, and Reyes watched him leave and then let out a sigh of relief. What sort of aura is this? For a child to be able to pressure me just by sitting near me, what has my life been for? Underscore 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 underscore. Silva went down and saw Dawn standing with her sword and two men on the floor, badly beaten up, with a few broken tables and chairs. The adventurers stared at her in shock. What happened? Silva asked out loud. That stupid bitch you brought in just went on a rampage, one man said. Silva looked at the men with bloodlust, and the men fell to the ground and coughed up blood. What the hell are you doing? Another person asked in anger. He lied to me. There's no way she would have fought all of you unprovoked, so tell me what happened. Silva said and released his aura. The whole room became heavy, even Reyes upstairs felt the pressure. The attendants could not take it anymore, so they spoke. Those two men disrespected her because she was a beastman and also tried to sexually harass her, the attendant said. So because she is from a different race, you all watched someone talk to her anyhow and try to mistreat her. And when she defended herself, you all stood against her, trying to pin the blame on her. There are despicable creatures, and you all fall into that group. You decided to be racist and side with your people even when they are wrong. You are all filth far beneath the shit of a dog, Silva said. He grabbed Dawn by her hand and took her outside. They left the guild, and Silva headed for an inn. He got a room for Dawn and decided to stay a bit and talk to her. But as soon as he entered the room, she followed behind and hugged Silva from the back. Silva was shocked as he felt her body press against him. Even with 10 extra minds working in parallel, he couldn't calm down. Dawn, he said. Please, just for a moment, she said. Thank you, she repeated. It seems I underestimated the effect of loneliness in her heart, Silva thought. I said I'd save you, right? The next time they lay their hands on you, or talk to you, I'll kill them, slowly torturing them till death, Silva said. When she heard that, she tightened her grip on him. After a while, she let go. Both of them sat on the bed, and Silva started talking about the raid tomorrow. The labyrinth belongs to me, but the town doesn't know that. They believe it's a group of people probably still in the labyrinth. So tomorrow, the raid will be happening, and I want you to be there with me, Silva said. You don't need to ask, I'll surely go with you, she replied. But the labyrinth doesn't really have anyone inside, right? Yet you're allowing them in. What's your plan? She asked. Information gathering. People from Blacklight City are coming. They have some A ranks, and A ranks have information that normal people can't access. I need all the information I can get before I head for the academy in a few months. So while they're all there searching for non-existent people, I'll slowly carry out my plan, Silva explained. He spent the rest of the time explaining the details to her until night came, and he decided it was time to leave. But as he got up, Dawn grabbed his hand. She looked up at him with eyes that begged him to stay. Silva couldn't see the mature woman anymore, all that was there now was a child that wanted someone with her. I'm still a kid. Spending the night in the room of a woman doesn't sound right, Silva said. Please, just this once, she said. Silva stared at her. The man in his body screamed at him to stay, overshadowing the small voice that tried to tell him to leave. Whatever, man. Fuck it. Whatever happens, happens. No regrets, no looking back, Silva decided. So they lay in the bed, and the night came. Dawn snuggled up to him, sleeping like a little lamb. On the other hand, Silva was heating up. There was a wolf lady right next to him. In his past life, everyone had a fantasy about a cat lady, a wolf lady, or something like that. They may not say it, but everyone has definitely thought about it. And now, here he was, living that fantasy. He couldn't control his body. He heated up from the stimulation and slowly closed his legs to stop his little friend from poking out. He cursed the rapid development of children in this world. Unlike Earth, 14 was considered adulthood here, and children grew faster due to mana. Silva slowly passed the night without a wink of sleep. His eyes were wide open as he watched Dawn sleep. From time to time, she muttered something in a cute manner and held onto Silva tighter than before. Her tail would wag from time to time and hit the bed, while her ears perked up and down quickly in random patterns. As she slept, she was the epitome of cuteness, and Silva was barely holding on to his sanity. Underscore 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 underscore. The day of the raid finally arrived, and all adventurers of B rank and many of the C rank were getting ready to go. Silva and Dawn also got ready and left the inn. As they walked, Silva noticed a spring in her steps, like she was lighter and full of energy. I guess she hasn't been resting well enough for some time, Silva thought. The raid would start when the leaders of the Ribis Town Adventurers and the Blacklight Town Adventurers leader arrived at the labyrinth, along with the people raiding. As for Ribis Town, the leader was Silva, and since they all knew Silva and what he was capable of, they had no issues with it. The same could not be said for the Blacklight City Adventurers because when they saw Silva arrive at the labyrinth, one of them tried to chase him away. Why? Why do fools keep coming my way? Silva asked out loud in a tired voice. The adventurer got pissed and wanted to attack Silva, but he felt lots of killing gazes on him. He looked at the Ribist adventurers. They were all looking at him with murderous intent. The leader of the Blacklight group came forward. He wore black armor with a two-handed sword on his back. His hair was white and flowing all the way to his back. He had a well-carved face. Silva was sure that this man would be a very popular model if he was from Earth. Silva didn't fall behind look-wise, actually. It was hard to find a person as good-looking as him, but he wasn't aware of this, he just lived his life. From how the adventurers reacted just now, should I presume you are the leader? The man asked as he stepped closer to Silva. Dawn placed her hand on her sword and was ready to draw. If this man did anything careless, his head would roll. The man glanced at Dawn and then frowned. It seemed he knew who Dawn was. Yes, I am the leader, B-rank Silva, he introduced himself. The Blacklight adventurers started talking when they heard this. They kept talking about how Silva must either be lying or have some sort of secret. Silva could already feel some envious gazes on him. These were the ones that would fall prey first. Well, my name is Orion Luxworth, an A-ranked adventurer from Blacklight City, the man said and stretched out his hand for a handshake. As their hands locked together, Orion started adding pressure, like he was trying to test Silva's strength. Silva frowned. Did this idiot even know what he was doing? Dawn was right there beside him, there was no way she hadn't noticed what he was doing. Taking into account the character that Dawn had started building, she would kill anyone that touched Silva. And like he said, he could sense her emotions raging up. Silva decided to disgrace Orion a little, and so he squeezed as well. Orion felt a sharp wave of pain. He tried to hold a strong face and remove his hand, but he couldn't pull it out. He looked at Silva, who was smiling at him. This brat. How dare he? Orion was fuming with rage. Next time, be cautious, Silva said, released his hand, and walked away. The other adventurers could not really see what happened, but the stronger B ranks and A ranks knew, and thoughts had started sprouting in their heads. What was Silva's strength? How did he acquire such power? Was it possible to steal that strength? Silva was aware of the blooming envy, and like before, that was what he needed. He met with Quinn, whose team was here as well. Since they were a B-rank team, they had to come too. When Roxy saw him, she ran up to him and hugged him, but then she saw Dawn behind him, and their eyes clashed. Sparks flew as the two looked at each other. Dawn would have no issue with another woman having feelings for Silva, but she hated the fact that Roxy was evidently hating on her and trying to get Silva all to herself. That can't happen. Dawn would rather let the world burn than lose Silva after finally getting someone that she wanted to be with, and the person accepted her. Silva noticed the tension and decided that he would make something clear to them before he entered the labyrinth, or else, Dawn might just kill Roxy. He whispered into Roxy's ear. If you think you'll be the only lady I'll be around, you are sorely mistaken. Even if they aren't for love, I'll have to be with them for political or personal reasons. I'm telling you this now so that you don't go getting mad over what you can't control. If this is too much for you to handle, then you can always forget about me, Silva said. It was as though a bomb exploded in her head when she heard the last line, you can forget about me, her heart tightened. She knew it was impossible to tie Silva down, but she wanted to try at least. But now it was Silva telling her that it wouldn't work. She was conflicted. She tried to resolve her thoughts. Silva pushed her off him a bit and looked her in the eyes. "When you are certain of what you want, tell me." "All right," he said, then left her. He knew what she would choose, but he hoped for another result. If she kept loving him, she was digging a hole for herself, because Silva was unpredictable, and this may lead to some painful situations for her. Silva met Quinn and gave him a clear warning. "No matter what, Quinn, stay with me in the labyrinth, you and your party. You guys have to stay with me, do you understand?" Silva asked. Quinn didn't know why Silva was saying it like that, but since it was Silva, there had to be a reason, so he decided to follow Silva's instructions. "Then, we're in your care, bro," Quinn said. Right now, they stood with over 100 adventurers from the town and city, consisting of C ranks and B ranks that came from Ribist. And then B ranks and A ranks from Blacklight City. In all honesty, this wasn't a raid but a flex, and the Blacklight City adventurers were only here to bully, but Silva was ready, very ready for them. It was finally time to go in. Silva called all the B-ranked adventurers from Ribist. They were mostly men, but about 6 were women. They all surrounded him, even Lucas, who had been beaten up badly that day. He refused to look Silva in the eyes. "All right, most of you already have parties, and your parties are here, so I need you guys to lead them in small groups. Also, just for today, allow anyone who wants to join your party. There are some solo raiders here, so assimilate them into your party if possible. They will all follow you, while you follow my orders or Dawn beside me." Silva pointed to Dawn. He watched closely to see their reactions toward her, and sure enough, some of them looked at her in ways that pissed him off. Silva marked them, about 5 men in total. To think the women didn't even look at her badly, but some idiots did. He would hand these men over to Lily for sure. She is an A-ranked adventurer, and she will be helping me today, so her orders are only secondary to mine. You forfeit your life if you disobey her in this raid, and I mean that, Silva said and used his killing intent to pressure them. After the small talk, they all stood in front of the labyrinth and walked in. The group of over 100 started their march. As soon as they entered, Silva started receiving updates from the lowest floor. Elsa and the others were watching and working. Silva was sending them information about the people he would like dead to feed the labyrinth, those he wanted kidnapped and tortured for information. And those that looked at Dawn with eyes they shouldn't have. Those ones were set to simply suffer eternal pain. The remaining amounted to about 60 to 70 people. From that amount, he needed to make it more real, so 20 would be heavily injured, while the rest would suffer minor injuries all over. The first few floors were a walk in the park for a mighty force of over 100 people. They easily walked through, killing the monsters as they went, but as soon as they stepped into the 6th floor, Silva started heating things up. The group decided that they would rest on the 6th floor, as there was a large area. They had been inside for 4 hours now, so rest was needed for the weaker members. Since the beginning, the adventurers from the city kept casting looks at Silva and Dawn. The 2 of them were the odd ones out, a kid and a beastman. But Silva didn't have an issue, the whole thing was about to fall apart anyway. It was time to unleash the power of his dungeon. As they camped there, a heavy amount of bloodlust reached them, and from the darkness, 4 mighty minotaurs walked out holding massive axes. The whole group got to their feet when they saw this. These minotaurs were considered peak B-ranked monsters. And their rage mode would be able to kill an A rank, so they needed to stop them fast. "All mages, get ready to attack from a distance," Orion yelled, but only his mages answered. Those from Ribist waited for Silva to talk. "Dawn, Quinn, and Lucas, take 1 minotaur out each," Silva said and charged at one himself. The 3 of them did as he said and started charging at a minotaur. Because of them, the mages that were about to attack stopped. If they attacked, they would hit Silva and the other 3. Lucas drew his sword and took a step, his body phased, and when he appeared, he was in the air behind the minotaur. He slashed off the head cleanly. Quinn was fast on his feet. He waited for the minotaur to attack, then dodged. The axe struck the ground, and Quinn stepped on the shaft and leaped into the air. He spun around and slashed the minotaur's head off. Dawn got within 10 meters of the minotaur. She took out her sword and threw it. It dug into the head of the minotaur, throwing it back and slamming it against the wall. Silva didn't do anything special. He just leaped into the air and punched the head of the minotaur, turning it into meat paste. Sorry that I had to use you four to make this look real, Silva said in his mind. He already knew that quite a few monsters would be lost in this stupid thing. What the hell are you doing? Orion barked at him. What I came to do, take out the monster and raid the dungeon, Silva said with a nonchalant attitude. You brat, you think you are something special? Orion asked. Well, I became what it took you 3 decades to become in just 12 years. Of course, I am special. Oh, you think I don't know about you? I did my research. You were stuck at B rank for many years. You became a B rank at the age of 30, and that was still considered good, but you are a noble, and such speed was pathetic for a noble of your status. So you turned to drugs and potions, forcefully pushing your strength to A rank, and now you have been stuck there for years, unable to advance. When the discussion of the raid came up, you quickly used your position as a noble to be chosen because you believe that this is where you can advance. Pathetic. Silva said with spite in his eyes. All this information he got from the Viscount. He asked the Viscount to look into the family of whoever was sent to the raid, and Orion was from the Luxworth barony. As such, the Viscount easily got the information he needed and gave it to Silva, and now Silva was using it against him. You filthy piece of shit. Orion roared and drew his sword at Silva. He charged in like a bullet and slashed at Silva's neck. But then, a blade blocked his attack. He looked up and saw Dawn had blocked him. She was very pissed. She pushed his sword back and sent a kick to his chest. Orion flew and slammed into the wall, and this triggered a fight. Both sides collided, the people of Ribist versus the city. But this was all phase 1 of the plan Silva had set up because now the tension was high, working together could no longer happen, and the monsters could finally roll in. Close to 50 Minotaurs headed their way, the stampede shaking the ground, but because of the fight, they didn't notice until it was too late. Orion tried to bring back order, he yelled, but nothing was working. That was when he realized that his voice was being suppressed. He looked over to Silva and saw Silva smiling, and that was when he knew he had messed up. They all messed up the moment they stepped in here. There was no choice, he had to run now. But as he took a step, he stepped on a rock that activated a pitfall. It was quite wide, and so close to 10 people fell into it. The A-ranked adventurers knew they had to do something fast, but Silva didn't want the chaos to stop like that, so he used his skill, fear, to cause them to scatter in all directions. The Minotaurs gave chase, eagerly pursuing the adventurers. Their job was to lead them down to the lower floors. The reason Silva had triggered that initial fight was so that if Ribist adventurers and Black City adventurers found themselves together, they would be unable to rely on each other and would cause each other harm. Now, only Silva and Quinn's party remained. They had stuck to him, just as he told them to. They too had run into a corridor, and 3 Minotaurs were chasing them. You guys go ahead, Dawn and I will take care of the Minotaurs, Silva said, and he and Dawn turned back and headed for the Minotaurs. Quinn didn't question it. Even he could fight the Minotaurs, but his legs just kept running for some reason. When Silva and Dawn headed back, he created a clone to meet Quinn. The clone would tell them that Dawn had gone to help the others. After making the clone, he and Dawn teleported to the throne room. As soon as they appeared, Elsa ran up and hugged him. Daddy, she called out. Silva tried to hold himself from falling. Has everything been set up? He asked. Yes, Master, Drake said. Silva walked to the throne and sat down as a massive hologram screen showing one side of the labyrinth appeared. There were over 10 people on screen. They had run away from the Minotaurs and were now closer to the entrance of the 7th floor. 3 of them were from Ribist, and the rest were from Blacklight City. About 4 of them were marked with red dots over their heads, those were the ones who looked at Dawn with eyes they shouldn't have. He would be starting with this set and having some fun with them. Underscore 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 underscore. The Minotaurs are definitely coming. We need to find a way out. We can either take the risk of entering the 7th floor or fight them, an adventurer said. No, you are wrong. We can sacrifice you and your 2 companions. You Ribist C ranks should be the ones to die first. If you die for our sakes, we can get away from here and survive, so better do it, the strongest of the Blacklight City adventurers said. What the hell are you saying? You want us to die so that you can escape? You bastard, are you even human? The men snapped back. You three don't have a choice. You either fight us and get forced into being the sacrifice, or you comply, the men responded. Who said they didn't have a choice? Are you perhaps the owner of this labyrinth? Silva's voice boomed through the space. All 10 of them could hear him, but he wasn't there. Who the hell are you? Show yourself, the Blacklight City adventurer said. Immediately after, a massive force slammed him to the ground and pressed him down until the ground started cracking. Who told you that you can raise your voice here? Silva asked. He stopped the force and allowed the men to take a breather. Listen closely, all of you. 4 of you here must die for certain, and that's simply for a crime you committed. So I'll show you the 4 people, and the 6 of you must subdue them in any way possible, but ensure they are alive. When you succeed, hand them over to my friends who have surrounded you. The adventurers looked around and saw that they had been surrounded by minotaurs, and these ones were bigger and stronger than the ones that chased them, 10 in number. An average B rank can take care of a minotaur, just as Quinn showed. Well, that's somewhat bullshit. You need to be experienced in fighting them to be able to kill them quickly. The reason why all the adventurers really ran from them was due to fear, induced by Silva. But as for these minotaurs that stood here, they were 3 times the strength of the other ones. There was no way this group of 10 could survive them. The group felt fear when they saw the minotaurs, they felt like melting into the ground. My friends here serve 2 purposes. If you refuse to subdue the 4 that I will show you, my friends will attack and kill all of you. If you do as you are told and hand over the 4, they will spare you and leave. Then you 6 must head to the 7th floor. Now that all that has been laid out, let us begin. In 10 seconds, the ones you must subdue will be shown to you. Silva finished what he had to say and started counting 10 seconds in his mind. When it hit 1, a holographic light shined over the heads of 4 of the Blacklight City adventurers. The remaining 6 immediately knew what this meant, and the air became tense. The 4 that had been chosen took their weapons and entered a defensive stance. They started retreating slowly from the others. You guys can't do this. We are from the same guild and city. Let's take out those ribbist idiots and fight the minotaurs ourselves, one tried to persuade. I don't think you understand what you're saying. Even if the rest of you gang up against us, you can't win against those minotaurs. I have a family, and so I will not just die here. I'll have to hand you over to them. That's the only way that makes sense. Who's with me? The C-rank adventurer who had been arguing with the other adventurer spoke up. Even the remaining 2 adventurers from Blacklight knew this was the only option, so they drew their staffs and swords. It was time to subdue. You bastards. Fuck all of you. Betrayers. Motherfuckers. The 4 that were chosen yelled out, but things had already been set in motion. An earth mage made the first move to capture them. The earth gripped the legs of the 4 and tried to stop them from moving. The others immediately attacked to make the best out of the opportunity. The battle of 6 versus 4 raged for 5 minutes, with both sides taking damage, but the 4 were taking very heavy beatings. One lost his leg, the other his hand, another his eyes, and another half his face, but they had to keep fighting if they wanted to walk out of here. In the end, 4 of them were knocked out and handed to the minotaurs. The minotaurs left immediately after they got the 4, just as Silva promised. The 6 that had subdued the others found places to rest, their bodies covered in their blood and the blood of the 4 they fought. But in the end, they managed to survive. What they did here may weigh on their conscience for life, but at least they were alive. Though, Silva had no plans to let them rest. Now head to the 7th floor. The 6 adventurers had no choice but to drag their wounded bodies to the 7th floor. They didn't know what awaited them, but it was far better than disobeying that voice. The minotaurs took the 4 that had been knocked unconscious. They took them and teleported all the way to Lily's Hall, where they would wait for the others and their punishment would begin. Since Silva had dealt with the first group, he shifted his attention to another group that had run back to the 5th floor. That group was trying to get out of the labyrinth. They consisted of 3 C-ranked and 2 B-ranked adventurers, with 1 V-ranked being a lady. As they ran through, making their way out, Silva was pissed at the fact that they were working together. He wanted chaos between both sides, yet these 5 had put away their differences to work together. He couldn't let that slide. Aside from that, one of the B-ranks was marked as a person that looked at dawn, and that simply meant he would have to endure the torture as well. The group of 5 ran as fast as they could, but suddenly, a being appeared in front of them, a half-snake, half-woman. She had black hair and black scales. This was one of the followers of Jade, the Guardian. When they saw her, they all came to a stop. They immediately pulled out their weapons and got into battle positions. "I'm not here to fight you. I am only here to offer you a way out," she said. "Why would we believe a monster, and why can you talk?" one of the adventurers asked. "Is that really important now? I have a way to let you get out. If you don't want the method, I'll have to kill all of you now," she said. Her bloodlust spilled out of her and suffocated them. This was to let them know that they weren't on the same level, and that she could kill them whenever she wanted. The idea registered in their heads, and they gave up. If there was a way to escape, then they would try it. They'd rather take the risk than go up against this monster that was evidently stronger. But not all 5 of them had this idea. One B-rank drew his sword and charged at the snake lady. She smiled when she saw him. He slashed at her, and all she did was use her tail to block the attack. She then used her tail like a lance and stabbed through his chest, killing the man in one hit. His body fell to the ground limp and then disappeared, leaving a crystal. She picked the crystal up and ate it, then gave a refreshed smile. The remaining 4 shivered at that sight. They had just witnessed total domination, and one of them had died. Now only 3 C ranks from Ribist and 1 B rank from Blacklight remained. "Now will you all listen to me, or will I have to make another example?" she said. "We will do what you want, just tell us," the lady came forward and said. You could see the panic in her eyes. She didn't want to die here. "All right then, it is simple. All you have to do is pick the odd one out. When you find the odd one, suppress him or her. If you fail to find the odd one, all of you die. You have 1 minute," she said, and then disappeared. "Odd one. What could that mean?" one asked. The B rank looked at all of them. He observed closely, and then his eyes landed on the woman. She had to be the odd one, right? There was no other way. She was the odd one. She was a woman, so she was the only one different. He drew his sword and pointed at her. "She is the odd one. She is the only female here. That makes her the odd one out," he said with certainty. "What are you saying? That makes no sense. You can't just say I am the odd one," she argued. "His theory does make sense," one of the C ranks agreed. "I can't argue with it. You are the only difference here, so you will have to forgive us," the third guy said and pointed his sword at her as well. She raised her staff for protection, ready to cast a spell at the slightest movement. The rage she felt was evident on her face. The minute passed, and the snake lady appeared again. She looked at them all, pointing their weapons at the woman, and then she smiled. "Should I take it that this is the decision you have made?" she asked. "Yes, she is the only odd one out," the B rank said. "Sigh, such stupidity," the snake lady replied, confusing all of them. "You ganged up on her because she was a woman. You failed to use your brain just because you felt that was the right answer. Did you even try to find any other answer? No, you just acted how you wanted and chose her based on gender. Truly stupid. She is from the same place as you, and that man is the outsider from another place, isn't he? He was the odd one out," she said, pointing at the B rank. "Now, as per the agreement, I'll give out death." She moved, her body like a flash, and in seconds, the heads of the 2 men flew off their shoulders. She wrapped her tail around the B-ranked adventurer, squeezing him until he went unconscious. She looked at the lady, who was shivering in fear, but then she turned around and dragged the men into the darkness. The lady stayed put for 5 minutes, unable to move, until she gathered herself. She got up and ran as fast as she could. She didn't know why she was spared, but now was not the time to ask questions. The same thing was happening all over the labyrinth, but Silva decided to shift his focus from the small fries. He decided it was time to pull in the big dogs. All the A ranks, 3 in total, to the last floor where he was. These were the ones that had the information he needed. There were 2 swordsmen and a beautiful lady mage, the 3 of them were the A ranks that were sent. Silva teleported them into the main hall, while the other adventurers were out there in the labyrinth going through hell. Orion looked up when he appeared, and his eyes could not believe what he saw. Lined up from left to right were terrifyingly powerful beings standing. Their aura at full blast, crushing his soul inside his body. And on the throne sat a man and a little girl. The man wore a cloak, covering his face, so he couldn't tell who he was. But then his eyes went to Dawn, who also stood there. As soon as he saw her, he got up and pointed at her. "You traitor," he yelled, but immediately, the hand that he used to point at her was severed. It flew into the air and fell on the ground with a loud thud. Orion looked at his hand in shock, and so did the other A-ranked adventurers. Orion may not be very strong, but his hand was cut off without anyone moving. They couldn't even tell who had done it. Silva removed his cloak and spoke, "You shouldn't be noisy when you are in someone's place. That is annoying." The three of them looked at Silva. They knew him, he was the leader of the ribbist adventurers. What was he doing here? "I have to say thank you, Orion, because of you, I was able to ignite the first phase of the image to cause chaos. I have the special ability to induce fear, but it becomes easier when there is already tension. So I threw you a bait, hoping that you would take it, and you did. With that set in motion, I was able to take who I wanted, kill who I needed to kill, and punish," Silva said. "You bastard, why would you do all that? How can you be so cruel?" Orion yelled. Such a great question. And now to the answer. We all live as puppets, under the rule of the strong. Your sense of ethics and justice is all skewed to fit your selfish beliefs. You fight other races, you enslave beastmen, you hate all those that are not similar to you, yet you raise a flag of justice. Is justice only for when it fits your needs? The hundreds of beastmen you walk past daily in slave markets, don't they deserve the justice you wave around?" Silva asked. Orion frowned and balled his fist in anger, but he couldn't argue back. The mage lady stepped forward and spoke. "Why should they have any justice? They are all filled with the blood of demons. It is the task of humans to stop the demons," she said, showing her conviction. Silva frowned when he heard that. He looked at her and spoke. "You stand here, and right before you are several races that aren't human, yet you opened your hole of a mouth to say they don't deserve justice," he asked, his eyes glowing red. The lady shivered uncontrollably under his gaze, she could hardly keep standing. Silva transformed into his dragon-nude form, he looked at them and asked. "So tell me now, do you think I have no right to justice now that you know who I am? Do you believe that I shouldn't walk the same road as you? Well, don't answer, because even if you do, I won't believe what you say." He transformed back to normal and then walked towards them. "The reason I can be this cruel, the reason I can act this way and take lives without batting an eye, is because I was wired this way. Yup, I was wired not to care. I was wired to be a menace to all humanity, to become a being that would go straight for my goals regardless. But even with that, I work with a simple system. You have to either do something to me for me to kill you, or you have something I need and want to take from you. Even with all the evil that I bring, I still protect what I hold dear and care for those that I love. So I'm not all bad, but I am still pretty nasty. And I'll show you that nasty side if you don't stop trying to activate that crystal in your palm," Silva said to Orion. Orion froze when he was caught. The crystal was the size of a fingernail. How did Silva still find out about it? Silva saw the look on Orion's face, he couldn't hold back his laugh. "Ha ha ha ha, did you really think I wouldn't see it? Or the spell that the mage lady has been secretly casting, or the ring that men behind you has been trying to activate? Seriously, you all look down on me far too much, so I'll have to take you down a notch. So for that, I offer you a way out. The three of you must defeat Galen, my summon over there," Silva said and pointed to Galen. "If you manage to win against him, you will be teleported out, no questions asked. But if you fail, you're gonna see hell. Now, no time to waste. Galen, take over," Silva said and walked away. Galen bowed his head. He took his dual daggers and walked into battle. He weakened his aura to deceive them, so that they would believe they had a chance. Silva just wanted to give them hope, allow them to dream, and then crush it, over and over again. He would ensure that he radically damaged their spirits. Galen was only the first stage, many stages came after, and he would engrave into them how weak and useless they were. "Wait, my hand, how will I fight without it?" Orion yelled. Silva turned around and looked at him. He stared at him for a while, then spoke. "Lily, heal him up." Lily did as he spoke, and Orion's hand regenerated. While Orion was getting happy that his hand was back, Silva spoke again. All of you have one opportunity to ask for healing, and sadly, Orion has used up his opportunity. There will be no healing for him from here on out, Silva said. Orion froze when he heard that. How was that fair? Silva didn't tell him. How could he have known? But he couldn't voice his thoughts. If he did, he would die. Now begin, Silva gave the go-ahead. Galen slammed his foot into the ground suddenly, his body shot forward like a rocket, so fast that the three could not react. When he stopped, he was right in front of Orion, about to slash him in two. The mage quickly cast an earth spell that created a wall to block the attack, buying Orion enough time to step away. The wall did little to stop Galen though. His blade cut through with ease. He pushed forward and chased Orion, going for another slash. Orion had to think quick. He parried the strike, but the force behind it was too much for him. His shoulder dislocated, and he was sent flying into a wall. The other swordsman tried to take advantage and attack just as Orion was sent flying, but Galen was alert. The men slashed at Galen, but Galen parried it easily and stepped in. He used his second sword to slash down diagonally. The men looked at the blade coming towards him. He couldn't dodge, it was way too fast. Just as he was about to give up, a fireball slammed into Galen's hand and pushed it back. Oh, a dual mage. This may be interesting, Silva thought. With Galen pushed back, the man was able to retreat and recollect himself. Orion had also gotten up. He popped his shoulder back into place and got into his stance. I will not go down like this, Orion said. His sword shone brightly with a yellow light, and his aura changed. So he has light affinity, a very terrifying affinity, but against Galen, it's like a candle flame, Silva thought. Both of you cover me, I'll take the lead, Orion said, charging at Galen at top speed. The mage cast a streak of flames that Galen had to block. She did it to block his view, allowing the other swordsman to get behind Galen. The men went for a stab, but Galen spun around and blocked it. The plan was now in place. With Galen's back to Orion, he could attack. Orion leaped into the air, his sword shining brighter. He stabbed down right at Galen's neck. Galen smirked when he saw this. Even when he was a normal goblin king, these A-ranked adventurers would have a hard time with him. So now that he was 10 times stronger, they were nothing. He stomped his foot on the ground and gave a wall-shaking roar. The sound penetrated the ears of the three of them. Their eardrums were torn, and they bled from their ears. Orion could no longer complete the attack. He fell to the ground and covered his ears in pain, his brain ringing continuously. Is this all? Is this the end of your struggle? Galen asked in an insulting tone. They can't hear you, Galen, you destroyed their ears, Silva said. Oh, I see. Then there is no point in talking, Galen said, but before he moved to finish them off, the mage and the swordsman raised their hands and yelled. We would like to use our healing now. Silva smiled and signaled Lily to do it. She healed them, and they were able to stand good as new again. The mage took out a potion and fed it to Orion, but then she felt a deathly pressure on her, causing her to shiver. No need to get angry, Elsa. I didn't tell them not to use personal items. She hasn't broken the rules, Silva said while patting her on the head. Okay, Daddy, she responded and withdrew the pressure, allowing the mage to breathe well. After taking the healing potion, Orion was able to stand again. He got on his feet and carried his sword again. I hope your second try won't be as pathetic as the first one, Galen said, then dashed towards them. The mage was quick. She cast an earth spike spell, causing spikes to shoot out of the ground, but Galen either dodged or cut through them. He was like an unstoppable monster, his speed didn't reduce even once. Orion used his sword again, but this time, he also used a technique that added to his speed a bit. He charged at Galen. When he was just a few steps from Galen, he tried to jump to the side, but as he did that, he saw Galen's eyes trailing him, and then his arm and blade as well. Orion used what energy he had and blocked the blade. The impact shattered his sword and sent him flying into a wall, leaving a crack in the wall. Galen turned his attention to the other swordsman. He charged at him as well. The swordsman tried to move, but Galen was already there. As a last-ditch effort, the swordsman activated his technique, Lightning Sword, and tried to use it to stab Galen. Galen parried the attack and then headbutt the man, immediately sending him to the ground, unable to move. Now all that was left was the mage. But when she saw the other two were taken out, she broke down. She fell to the ground, shivering. I guess that's enough for round 1. You 3 lost, so I get to choose the rules of the next game. And it's a simple game of telling the truth. You lie, you die, Silva got up and said. Silva allowed Lily to take over the questioning, just asking them basic questions about things in black light, and certain information only an A rank would know about. After he finished that, he used his SP dark spell that allowed him to enslave people. He put it on all 3 of them and healed them. He still had use for them and their connections, so he let them leave. Right now, all 3 of them knelt before him in the throne room, their heads down, their egos vanished. They only existed to serve Silva now. Now, when you head up, the other adventurers are going to have a lot of stories about taking monsters and things like that, and we can't let word of that get out. So, the story behind what happened in the labyrinth is that you met a monster on the 20th floor that was very powerful. A floor boss, and he caused severe hallucinations, which led to everything that happened so far. Currently, 30% of the people that entered here have been killed or captured for personal reasons. The remaining have either trauma or injuries, but they have all started returning to the surface. They've had enough of adventuring, and I told them to go finally. But they have all passed through hell because I forced them to keep going deeper and fighting both monsters and amongst themselves. Well, all that aside, you are to do as you are told and report to me. Also, carry out the instructions I gave you in Blacklight City, Silva said. He activated the teleportation and sent them to the upper floors. All right, that concludes the raid issue. I had fun, Silva said. He got up and walked towards the door. Lily, come and show me what we worked on, Silva said. She bowed and followed him. They entered a large room, and inside were over 10 people tied up. They were the ones that he had caught to torture. Lily, you like carrying out experiments, right? Make sure to use them to the best of your abilities. After saying that, he left the place. He met up with Dawn, and they went back to the upper floors. He waited for an opportunity and then got his clone to go ease himself. Then, he switched with the clone and came back. 5 minutes later, Dawn also arrived. You are finally back, Dawn, Silva said, acting like he hadn't seen her in a while. I managed to help those I could, but the situation in the labyrinth is dire. We should head out fast, Dawn said. I agree. There is no point in us staying here, we would be seeking out death, Quinn said. Underscore 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 underscore. Stepping outside the labyrinth, the surrounding area was filled with adventurers everywhere. The wounded were getting treated, and the others just sat in quietness. Reyes was also there. When he saw Silva, he walked over to him. Thank goodness you are still alive, Reyes said. Why are you here, Guildmaster? Silva asked. An adventurer told us what happened in the labyrinth. She told us that everyone was in danger and that many people had died. So I rushed here, and by the time I came, the A ranks were out, and they explained the issue of the hallucinations that initiated the panic. As of now, I get that 40 people are not yet back, and we don't know what state they are in. It's useless to go and search for them, given the size of the labyrinth, Reyes explained. I know this is not the right time to say this, but I am certain some of them have died, Silva said. Kid, I know that, I know it all too well, but I have the duty to stand as the hope for the adventurers that have been battered by this labyrinth. Even if I know that most have died in there, I still have to keep the hope up, Reyes said. Silva didn't say anything more. He turned to Quinn. I guess we had the lucky side, the monsters we faced weren't too strong, Silva said. No, you just went and killed everything, Quinn said. Sigh, I forget that my clones are 10 times my strength, Silva thought. Silva. Quinn. Leah called out from a distance. She ran their way, huffing and puffing. Silva and Quinn ran to meet her halfway. If she ran all the way here, then it must be something serious. What is it, Leah? Quinn asked. Mike has woken up. I went by your house to get something, Brother Quinn, and I saw Mike sitting up. I got Mom and Dad to stay with him while I ran here to call you guys, Leah explained. Mike. He woke up. Quinn asked to confirm. He looked at Silva, and Silva nodded. Let's head back home. Dawn, come with me, Silva said. Quinn left his party, and they headed back to town. Silva carried Leah in a princess carry since she wouldn't be able to run at their speed. Leah didn't expect it when Silva picked her up. Her face went tomato red, and she tried to hide it. They ran to town non-stop and made it back in just a few minutes. They headed for Quinn's house and entered. When they got to the room, Silva saw his mom and dad seated beside Mike, and Mike was just sitting quietly. Mike looked up slowly and saw his brothers and sisters, but his eyes mostly stayed on Silva. Mike started moving, trying to get up. His dad tried to hold him down since it had been a while since he was in a coma, and there was no way he had the strength to stand. But Mike was adamant, so his father helped him up and helped him walk slowly to the front of Silva. Mike looked Silva in the eye for some seconds, and then bowed his head to Silva. Sorry, he managed to mutter, and then his legs gave out. His father caught him quickly and carried him back to the bed. Months flew by after the issue of the labyrinth. The Viscount did all the paperwork, and everything was settled. It was written off as the work of a monster in the labyrinth. Nothing really changed, because similar things had happened in the past. Sacrifices are made to undertake the workings of labyrinths, and this was taken as one of those sacrifices. Silva, on the other hand, had made it to level 60. The energy he received monthly from the labyrinth was turned into EXP, and the amount was not small. Name * Silva. Race * human, 50%, Dark Dragon, 50%. Legacy * Dark Dragon Legacy, Awakened. Magical affinities * summoning, darkness, abyss magic. Mana * 1 million. EXP * 1, 000/50, 000. SP * 1 million. Level * 60. Strength * 2000. Defense * 2000. Speed * 2000. Agility * 2000. Intelligence * 2200. Free stat points * 100. Since the town had no stronger monsters for him, he decided to channel his energy into studying with Leah and getting ready for the entrance exams. __________________________________________________________________________________________________________________________ During this time, Mike had become quieter and very diligent with his sword training. Ever since he could walk again, he trained as hard as he could. He also decided that he would become an adventurer in Blacklight City rather than stay here. So, of all the children, only Quinn remained in the town. The time for the exams had come, and it was also the day that Mike would be leaving. He decided to stay until Silva and Leah were leaving, and then he would leave as well. The carriage waited outside their house, one specially prepared by the Viscount because his daughter, Faye, would be heading for the exams as well. Faye had been very active in her attempts to get Silva to look her way, but he kept escaping her grasp. She was no longer doing it because her father asked. No, this time she seriously wanted Silva, and those feelings had started blooming not too long after they went to Blacklight. Silva, Faye, Leah, and Mike got into the carriage, and immediately, it was already an issue. Both Faye and Leah decided to sit beside Silva, and when they both sat down at the same time, they stared daggers into each other. Silva, on the other hand, slipped out of the chair and sat down with Mike. The faces of the girls turned sour immediately after he moved. You should sit with them, Mike said. No, they're all right there, Silva replied. Mike didn't say anything more. He just gazed out of the window as their journey started. Silva looked outside the back window. He watched his parents wave at them as they left. It had been 13 years since he died and was reborn in this world, and for the first time, he was leaving Ribist for an extended time. He was about to start the next phase of his journey at the academy. He somewhat looked forward to the academy, to see kids his age and to see what the academy had to offer. Though he doubted that whatever they taught would really impact his life, still, you never know. The carriage left the town, and soon, the town was out of view. Silva had sent Dawn ahead of him a month ago to prepare certain things with the help of the 3A ranks. Their names were Orion, Trez, and Jane. These were the ones he tortured the hell out of in the labyrinth. They had helped Dawn establish a few useful networks and certain establishments that Silva would need. As for Fong and Galen, they were training in the labyrinth, but whenever he needed them, he could use the new shadow summoning spell he had learned. It was a darkness spell that created a shadow portal to a person who had been marked, allowing the person to come to you instantly. Underscore 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 underscore. Many times now, Silva had thought about just letting his clone go to the academy for him, but he didn't see any reason to do that, and there was always the risk of exposure. So, at the end of the day, he decided that going himself was the best. He also wanted to see that sly woman, the head of the academy. He could sense that she was far more than meets the eye. The other reason why he wanted to go was because of his mother, the only one he wanted to meet. He wouldn't rush, but he wanted to stop by to see her. Even if it was from a distance, he wanted to see her again. As for the Duke, it was way too early to think about vengeance. The Duke was a powerful man, an evolved human, and had a massive personal army. If Silva went all out and used the labyrinth and the Guardians to fight, he could secure victory, but the loss and sacrifice would not be worth it. Underscore 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 underscore. So, what do you plan on focusing on in the academy? Faye struck up a conversation with Silva. Maybe sword techniques and stuff, Silva said. What? But your magic is much better. I've seen it and heard about it, Faye said. You clearly know little about Silva, and that's why you spoke like that, Leah said. What the hell does that mean? Faye asked. It means Silva isn't really interested in the academy or what they have to teach. He will probably just listen to what he thinks is important and throw away the rest. That's why he just said anything that came to his mind when you asked him that question, Mike spoke up while still looking outside. To think Mike could read me to this level, Silva thought. If you do that, you will fail, Faye said with concern. Do you really think there will be any test that will prove too hard for Silva? Aside from his absurd power, over the months, I discovered that he has a photographic memory. All he needs to do is glance at the material once or attend class once, Leah said. It is not photographic memory, it's just because I have 10 extremely powerful minds, Silva thought to himself. Faye looked at him in shock when she heard that, and he just gave her a silly smile in response. The journey to Blacklight City went without issues, and they arrived after a day. After a security check at the gates, their carriage was allowed into the city. The carriage made its way to the Adventurers Guild first to drop off Mike. I guess we'll see you soon, Mike, Silva said as Mike got down. Yeah, take care of Leah for me, keep her safe, Mike said. You know I would burn the world for her safety, Silva replied. Mike nodded at him and then turned to enter the guild. The coachman started moving again, this time heading for the academy. Will Mike be all right? Leah asked. Yeah, he will be fine. He'll probably become a well-known adventurer in the city. I don't think there's anyone who puts as much effort as he does, Silva said. After that, the carriage fell quiet as the anticipation for the exams built up. There was no time to rest or anything, the exams were right away. Silva, on the other hand, was busy editing his stats. He tried to use the status hide skill that he got long ago, but there was an issue. The skill refused to allow him to reduce more than 1,000 of his strength, even when he upgraded it. It refused to let him go lower than 700, so all his stats reflected 700. That was peak A rank stats, maybe even S rank. He did all he could to suppress this, but it wasn't working. Why can't I edit my stats? Why won't it let them go lower? Silva asked. The law of order has refused it. The system actually responded, but that law of order was bullshit. What the system was saying was that Ophelia might have caused this. If she was the one, then it meant she wanted him to be just about that strong in the academy. The reason was unknown, and he had a feeling he wouldn't get the answer even if he asked. Sigh, if this is part of her task for me, I'll just play along, but I can already sense the troubles coming my way, Silva said to himself. The carriage finally made it to the academy. They all got out and took time to admire the magnificent building. Even on Earth, no university or college could compare to this grand building that stood before them. Silva was actually surprised. His perception of the academy changed, it might be possible for this place to teach him some things from the looks of it. They all took their luggage and went inside. Based on the academy rules, you came with your things before the exam because if you passed, you would be admitted straight away and start living there immediately. If you failed, you carried your things home in shame. They walked through the gates, along with many other young people their age. As soon as they passed the gates, they saw some adults directing the kids. They followed and finally ended up in a large hall, with over 5,000 seats, and it was more than halfway full. The admission percentage of this academy was very low, as it took in about 500 students, and there were about 5,000 examinees. A very competitive issue at hand. More and more kids kept entering until the hall was filled up, and the doors were shut. The hall got darker, and a spotlight turned on stage. A man in a suit walked to the center with elegance. His cultured movements were complemented by his white hair and handsome face. Welcome, all of you, to the first stage of the examinations. Your journey to becoming a student has already begun. You will be passing through 5 exams in total, 3 of which are practical and 2 theoretical. Right now, you will be taking a theory exam. All of you will be isolated using a special spatial magic that has been built into this hall. You will have an hour to finish your exam, and the people who pass will move on to the next exam. The rules and regulations of the test will be explained when you are inside the isolated room. But for extra emphasis, all questions differ from person to person, so if you have already planned a way to cheat, it will not be possible. Also, the space detects any sort of mental or telepathic communication, and if you are caught, your entire exam will be over. This exam covers the topics that the Academy released a year ago for this year's exam. You have all had an entire year to get ready, so no excuses. The men finished talking. He didn't allow questions, he snapped his fingers, and all of their minds were transferred to isolated spaces. Underscore 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 underscore. Inside his isolated space, Silva was at a desk, waiting for the exam. A small floating square appeared in front of him and started explaining the exam to him. You have an hour to complete the exam. If you haven't answered everything in an hour, you have failed. You are not to pause for more than a minute. If you pause for more than a minute in your writing, you have failed. You can't skip any questions and come back later, the questions must be answered in order. If you skip, you have failed. There is no erasing of answers. Whatever you put down is twisted as the answer. When you finish, the exam will be marked immediately and scored. You will be told if you passed or failed. If you pass, stay in the hall after returning. If you fail, immediately leave the hall after returning. The cube made the exam paper and a quill appear. You may now start. The timer appeared in the cube and started counting down. Most of these rules are just to weed out the numbers. Following the rules may be even harder than the rest itself, Silva thought as he picked up his quill and took a look at the question paper.